Now here we are, we have the de Havilland Goblin engine, which was it really goes back to the first development of the jet engines. First jet engine being Whittle's jet, and then the de Havilland Aircraft Company actually designed and built the Goblin engine. And that's going right back to about the early 1940s. Remember, it first flew in 1943, so the development must have gone back a couple of years before that, right in the middle of the Second World War. So when you have a look at this engine, it's quite a large engine, and they've built the aeroplane around it, which is a classic British thing to do. And then look at the construction of the engine. It's very, very simple. It's like a big turbocharger, and some of those early jet engines were like a turbocharger, where they had a big centrifugal compressor in the front here, which is about this round. You know, when you take it out, it's huge, and it's just a single compressor which compresses the air. The air's coming in the intake ducts in the front into the centrifugal compressor. That's at full power is turning at 10,700 RPM, so it's really whizzing around. And then from there, the compressed air comes out of the compressor and into these combustion chambers. Now on the Vampire, this is the early generation where they had individual combustion chambers, and in this case 16 of them. So there's really 16 individual engines, if you like, and then joined together to give you the horsepower and thrust out the back. So it's very interesting to have a look at how they've done this, because each combustion can has its own fuel nozzle to put the fuel in. So you've got compressed air coming through, the fuel's added into here, and to start it, they have two spark plugs. There's one on the top here, and another igniter plug down on this side. So when it starts up, you often see a big flame come out of the back of a Vampire engine, because all these combustion cans are pouring fuel out, but it's only starting on two of them. So it starts off with one starting, and these interconnecting tubes take the flame from one can to the next and to the next. So sometimes the flame will go right back even past the tail. So it's quite an interesting engine when you think that they've developed all this back in the early 1940s, and the performance of it was quite good as well. You had the thrust of this engine is 3,500 pounds of thrust, and if you think about that with horsepower, it's actually 12,000 horsepower has been generated by this compressing of the air and then adding fuel and igniting it with the jet thrust going out the back. And there's one turbine wheel there that absorbs the horsepower to then drive the compressor in the front. Now, out of the 12,000 horsepower that's been developed, 8,000 horsepower is required just to run the engine, just to drive that compressor of the front at 10,700 RPM. So jet engines are actually very inefficient, and this has always been the case. They've made them more efficient in later days by improving the compressor stage on the front, by making a nice axial compressor instead of just this one big centrifugal compressor. So you really end up with whatever's left over. So out of the 12,000 horsepower, you're going to only get 4,000 horsepower coming out the back. Remember, 8,000 horsepower is required to run the engine. And then the acceleration and temperatures that take place in here, in the early days, they had to try and develop materials that could handle these extreme heat, because once the fuel is ignited in the combustion chamber, you're ending up with temperatures in here of up to 900 to 1,000 degrees. So it's just really, really hot, and then accelerating out through the back. So there's combustion acceleration, and you're ending up with speeds, airflow speeds in here of over 1,200 miles an hour as it accelerates out of the combustion cans. Goes through that one turbine wheel, and then whatever else is left shoots out the back. So when de Havilland designed this aeroplane, they actually had to design it around the engine, because they had a problem where you couldn't add extra tailpipe length in the tailpipe without affecting the performance of the engine. So the Vampire was developed as this lovely big flying wing, with the engine being the central part of it, and then the twin booms with the higher tailplane, so that the jet thrust could actually go out underneath the tailplane and not interfere with the elevator. And to come up with a completely new design back then to get the sort of performance that they have out of these aircraft was absolutely wonderful, really. And it's a wonderful aeroplane to fly. And when you compare the performance, it's right up there with all the modern jets. The only thing is it uses a lot more fuel. All they've done now is to improve the fuel efficiency, whereby they use half the fuel. This engine uses 1,500 litres an hour to get 3,500 pounds of thrust. The more modern ones are down to about 1,000 litres an hour. So that's the early development of jet engines.